Hello friends, welcome back to the Population and Society course. This is the Unit 2 of Module 1. So let's start. In the Unit 2 of the Module 1, we deal with the major sources of social demographic studies, their uses and limitations. So in the Unit 1, we looked at the need for population studies in a country like India. Now here we are going to learn what are the major methods through which this demographic studies is done or demographic data is collected. So why do we need a population study? The scientific study of population has a very significant role in the survival and development of a society. Population studies are always dependent on many demographic analysis of population growth and related situation. So for the population studies, we need demographic data, and the demographic data is collected using the major methods that is given below. The first one is census. Population census is the most fundamental source of data for the study of population. Census has its origin in a Latin word censere, that means to assess or value, denoting tax. Simply said, census is the enumeration of entire population of a country at a particular time. In the past, a system of census prevailed in countries like Egypt, Babylonia, India, China, Palestine, and Rome. So let's look at the definition given by United Nations for census. Census is the total process of collecting, compiling, evaluating, analyzing, and publishing demographic, economic, and social data pertaining to a specific time to all persons in a country or in a well delimited part of a country. So, through the process of census, we collect data pertaining to a specific time to all persons or to the persons of a well delimited part of a country. Now, let's look at the features of population census. A census treats each individual separately. A detailed analysis of age, sex, marital status, occupation, educational attainment, and religion, etc. of all population can be easily available. Census is taken at regular intervals. Census covers a well-defined area. Information is collected from each individual. The willingness and ability of the respondent is given due consideration. Now let's look at the procedure for census. The procedure consists of 10 steps, and it starts with selecting of the machinery for census operation. So for the census operation, we have a machinery which includes both human and non-human elements. Like there's an administrative part where humans are involved, and there's a non-human part like the tools that is used for the census, like the data collection tool, analysis tool. Now for the human part, we have to decide who are going to collect, to whom are they going to report to. These reports, who are going to tabulate it, to whom are they going to report the tabulated data. All these has to be selected. So first step is selecting of the machinery. Now the next step is deciding the scope of the census. Through the census, whose data is going to be collected and what kind of data is going to be collected. What all data we have to collect from each person. Such details are decided by the scope of the census. Now the third step is preparation of map and demarcation of rural and urban area. While doing census, we mark the areas as rural and urban. This is done during the third step. Next, the fourth step is house listing. A house list is prepared and each house, residential and non-residential, is numbered. Now, the fifth step involves training of enumerators and officers. The sixth step is the real data collection, that is the enumeration part. Now the enumerators go from house to house and collect the data. Next step is the checking and editing of the collected data. Now in the 8th step, we calculate some provisional totals. In the 9th step, some post-enumeration check is done, and in the 10th step, we go for computerized tabulation of the data collected. The second method of demographic data collection is vital statistics. Recording of the vital events are known as the vital registration system. Now, what is a vital event? A vital event refers to the live birth, death, fetal death, marriage, divorce, adoption, legitimation, recognition of parenthood, annulment of marriage, or legal separation. These are all vital events of a person's life. So, registration of these vital events is known as vital event registration, and the statistics resulting out of the vital events of one's life is called vital statistics. A person's birth and person's death are considered to be vital events, and these two events mark the beginning and end of a person's life. The occurrence of vital events is reported to the appropriate authorities by concerned persons. Whereas in the census, the authorities come to us and ask for data, but regarding the vital statistics, we go to the authorities and register our data. Vital statistics are the most widely used national, state, and local data for identifying and addressing major public health issues. The vital registration system is also known as civil registration. We know here we do it at panchayats and corporations. It is a tool for studying population changes. It, however, needs systematic registration and compilation. Vital statistics primarily records the number of births and deaths in a particular population. Factors like number of marriages and deaths by age groups are regularly included. Birth rates and death or mortality rates from which trends etc. can be computed. The most striking trend shown by recent vital statistics is the rapid increase of population of non-industrial countries due to a sharp decline in the mortality rate and an acceleration of the birth rate. Now another method is the sample survey. This is another method of collecting primary data by social scientists, and that is another method of population studies. This information is collected from the sample of the population, which is the representative of the whole and from which conclusions are drawn by the use of scientific methods. The data can be collected mainly by three ways. 1. National Sample Survey Organization. 2. City surveys sponsored by the Research Programs Committee of the Planning Commission. 3. The demographic fertility and family planning surveys, which have acquired popularity. Now the fourth method is dual report system. Dual reporting system is another source of data collection. In this, accurate data on birth and death rates can be collected. Each incident is enumerated by two independent procedures. One is that of registration and the other is that of sample survey. A continuous record on birth and death are maintained with the help of registration by the concerned persons. Also, data on births and deaths along with the other relevant information is collected through periodic retrospective sample surveys. Through these dual measures, accuracy is improved on statistics. That is, the data is collected from both ends. From one end, the person or the concerned persons, they go themselves and get registered, and from the other end, the authorities come and collect data and cross-check it and compare it so that accuracy is improved. Now, The fifth method is population registers. Demographers use secondary data for their work. Population register is important secondary source of data collection. Many European countries, maintenance of permanent population register for certain administrative and legal reasons is considered absolutely necessary. The figures collected at the time of census are verified by it and gaps filled in where necessary. These also clarify population trends. In this, name of every person in the country is entered along with some migratory movements of persons. It always helps to know about the current information on such demographic problems as population size, vital events, and internal migration. Now let's look at the population trends in the world. Times prior to 1650 AD, the growth of world population was very slow, while after 1650 AD, it increased rapidly. The estimate given for the period 1650 to 1900 by A. M. Carr Sounder and Walter F. Wilcox is considered as the most authentic region-wise estimate of world population. Now, in this table, we give the um, data pertaining to the period from 1650 to 1981. Here we can see during the period from 1650 to 1750, due to the changes in agriculture, transport and communication, mining and manufacturing, the great growth rate of population was 0.3%, which was much smaller prior to 1650. Now during 1750 to 1800, the growth rate became 0.45% and in 1800, the world population is approximated to be 90 crores. From 1800 to 1900, there was low death rate due to control of diseases, improvement in the surgical techniques, vaccination, better sanitation and better living conditions. Morbidity and mortality also went down. 0.6% growth rate was registered between 1850 and 1900, and the world population touched 100 crores by 1830. From 1900 to 1930, the trend of low death rates continued. In some countries, birth rates went down even below the death rates. World population reached 181 crores in 1920. From 1930 to 1970, the death rate of the world as a whole fell down to 14 per thousand from 35 per thousand in 1900. The growth rate of population between 1950 and 1970 was 2.6% per annum in Asia and Oceanic, whereas growth rate fell down in Europe and USSR. From 1970 to 1981, the trends are like 410 crores was reached in 1978 and in 1981 440 crores was reached. After 1981, growth rate was 2.22%. Now let's look at the trends overall. The population of less developed countries increased roughly by 120 crores between 1960 and 1980. This increase roughly equals to the total population of the less developed world as nearly as 1950. Family planning programs implemented in different parts of the world has direct effect on the growth of population. The rapid expansion of world population is putting tremendous pressures in the Earth's environment and social fabric. Many less developed countries live in poverty and hunger. Now let's look at the population growth in India. The demographic transition of India has been following through 4 stages. These are the 4 stages. First stage, 1901 to 1921, the population growth rate was stagnant. During the second stage, which was from 1921 to 1951, there was a steady growth of population. The third stage, which was from 1951 to 1981, there was a rapid growth of population, and in the fourth stage, 1981 to 2011, high growth with definite signs of slowing down of population. Sri Chandrasekhar S., in his work Hungry People and Empty Lands, observes that India's population problem arises primarily out of an extremely high fertility accompanied by high mortality, which is only slowly declining. The birth rate and death rate of India are high when compared to some advanced countries. A true picture of the population data is not available in India because India's vital statistics are inadequate and unreliable. Some of the reason for this state of affairs is the illiteracy and ignorance of the masses. India is the second most populated country in the world. India is a country where people of different caste, religion, culture, language, communities are living together. The density of the different parts of the country differ based on different demographic factors. Some parts of the country are thickly populated while other parts are not. In 1971 census, India's population was 54.74 crores and the density of population was 182 persons per square kilometer. Periodical census report of India shows that India has a steady rise of population. The 1981 census data indicate population as 682.8 million, showing 34.75% additional growth between 1971 and 81. The 1981 census reported that India shelters 15% of the total world population and density of India's population stands at a very high level of 221 persons per square kilometer. That is according to 1981 census. After independence, the government of India have been concentrating on checking or that is controlling the growth rate of overpopulation. Many efforts were made to popularize small family norms by using family planning devices and huge amounts were spent to check the population growth in India. But in spite of all these efforts, India's population is increasing day by day. A main reason for the rise of population in India is that the birth rate is not declining, whereas the death rate is checked and the infant mortality has also been considerably reduced. Due to better economic conditions and improved medical facilities and education, living standards of people has been raised. These factors contributed positively in the rise of population in India. For more than a century, the population of India seemed to be growing at an alarming rate. Only in the period 1911 to 1921, Indian population had a negative rate of population. This was due to both birth and death rates high and the increment was largely controlled by fluctuating mortality. Population growth was almost negligible depending on the severity of famines, epidemics and other tragedies which periodically accelerated the mortality. Thus in 1951, the Census Commissioner called 1921 as the great year of the Great Divide. The rapid rise in the population after 1951 is mainly due to the reduction in mortality through eradication of malaria, immunization against many killer diseases, and availability of curative and preventive medicines. Fertility rates, on the other hand, remained more or less stable, thereby increasing the rate of population growth. Now let's look at the last topic, that is the population growth in Kerala. As compared to the state of Kerala, India had a lower population growth rate till 1971. The decadal growth rate of Kerala has been showing a declining trend since 1981 and the state had a decadal growth rate lower than the growth rate of the whole country ever since. The gap between the rate of growth of population for India and Kerala has been showing an increasing trend from 1981, with Kerala having lesser growth. In Kerala, the percentage decadal growth of population during 2001 to 2011 has registered the lowest since independence. As per the 2011 census, population of Kerala is about 3.5 crores. In India, the state ranks 12th in the rate of population. That's all about the Unit 2 of the Module 1 of the Population and Society course. Thank you.